This story begins with the gradual accumulation of emotions within a seemingly ordinary life. While a person follows the same daily routine and notice cracks form within their inner world, these cracks don't make themselves heard loudly. They deepen silently, while everything appears to be fine on the surface. A heavy feeling of pressure grows within. As time passes, this pressure makes thoughts more complex. Words fail. Emotions become undefined. Instead of explaining themselves, the person chooses silence. This silence becomes a defense mechanism. However, this defense cannot be sustained for long, and the narrative begins precisely on the brink of this inner unraveling. As the first rays of morning light filtered into my office while we were having breakfast, I was surprised when Travanti suddenly opened the door. Even though we'd been married for 3 years, I wasn't expecting surprises like this anymore. Especially in the last 6 months, the walls of our home had been filled with silence. Travanti had evolved from a results-oriented CEO into a man tightly bound to the business, his connection with me severed. But this morning, in that dim light, something seemed different. "Good morning, baby. Happy 3-year wedding anniversary," he said, bringing a pale blue thermos through the door. His voice was warm, his smile strangely familiar, like a remnant of a virtue from long ago, when we were still doing well. I watched him in astonishment. It was utterly illogical that Travanti, a man who had worked 16 hours a day and spent virtually no time at home, would prepare a personalized breakfast with his own hands. But this morning, as he opened the thermos lid, a pungent smell wafted out the crunch, the distinctive animalistic aroma of crunch, clearly intended as a soul meal, cooked with its own care. It would have been easy to say I wasn't pregnant, but I was carrying a secret 3 months ago. A test had shown 2 pink lines. I'd planned to tell Travanti, but I felt like I was searching for the right time. And now, this morning, I was frantically wondering what to say about these fences. Morning sickness had become my affliction in recent weeks. It started with a murmur, peaked at midday, and made strenuous work almost impossible. Strong smells immediately caused nausea. Shoe police, fish, cooked meat, they all stirred up a rebellion in my stomach. And now, the farmhouses Travanti had prepared with love had appeared at precisely the worst possible moment. "Thanks, Travanti. That's very thoughtful. But actually, I had toast at home. I still feel very full," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I was holding my breath, trying to prevent the smell of the barnyard from invading my bronchi. Travanti's face froze, a moment a mixture of surprise and delight. Something was in his eyes, calculation. It's hard to explain. It was as if he was disappointed that I hadn't behaved as he expected. But he quickly recovered. "Just toast. That's nothing," she said, pushing the herd toward me. "I cleaned all morning and cooked all of this. All of it. Don't do this to me. Please, give me strength to eat, to get my strength back. Your favorite food." There was pressure, a soft pressure, but still there. I looked at it, searching for sincerity. I found nothing, just an account, an expectation, and an unspoken instruction. While I was trying to focus on my worries about an important client meeting and the work that needed to be done in the office, there was a knock at the door. Kishia, my new secretary hired a month ago, entered in her tight pencil dress, curva emphasized, her makeup carefully applied, radiating ambition with all her might. "Oh, so you're the director, bringing something so early in the morning to empower Zanea? You're so lucky," she said, her voice laced with a whine. "Who could resist someone who's such a perfect husband to you?" Travanti didn't answer. He gave me a couple of instructions and left. But the moment I approached the door, Kishia was still standing there, her touch following me with an injectable gaze. An idea suddenly struck me. A simple, ugly idea, but I resorted to it in the hope of avoiding morning sickness. "Kishia," I said, closing the thermos lid and quickly pushing the herd, "if you've had breakfast, turn these huts into something for me." Travanti put in a lot of effort. "They're very hot and fresh. I don't want to waste anything." Kishia's eyes widened. A look of approval flickered. She waited for Travanti to back down, a protest, a gesture, anything. But Travanti just stayed silent, looking somewhat annoyed. "If you insist," said Kishia, immediately opening the thermos lid and beginning to wrap and take the flock Thank you very much, Zinea. I will finish everything. I won't leave anything. The chef has to do everything. This must be a meal given by the gods. I watched her leave, clutching the thermos lid like a treasure, and inside me, a great relief washed over me. I was free from morning sickness. I returned to my office and began working on the financial reports. But something felt wrong. Travanti's moment, Kish's happy face, the atmosphere was so tense. There was something unsettling about it, like the aftermath of a lightning strike. An hour later, there was a noise from the common area of the office. It sounded like something heavy had fallen to the floor. Then, a scream of terror. It wasn't a scream of fear, it was a scream of pain. Extreme pain. I jumped up from my desk and ran outside. Kishia was struggling on the floor beside her desk. The thermos had tipped over, its contents spilling out. The smell of the farmhouse mixed with the stench of vomit, creating a horrifying odor. Kishia clutched her stomach tightly, her beautiful face contorted with pain, pale, devoid of its usual bloody color. Her eyes rolled. Foam was in her mouth. Her body trembled uncontrollably as if in a fit of seizure. But the most terrifying thing was the deep red color slowly spreading from the bottom of her beige dress. Blood. Fresh blood, flowing profusely, soaking the office carpet. The employees were running around in panic. 911 calls and screams filled the air. I stood there, my hands trembling, my legs shaking, and a lump in my throat. What's happening? Why is Kishia like this? The cup from the hut I gave her. The thought hit me like an electric shock, sending a cold wave down my shoulders. At that very moment, the door to the CEO's office burst open. Travanti ran out, his expression one of panic I'd never seen before. He made no attempt to help his employee. He wasn't asked. He simply stood there, a few meters away, his eyes fixed on the pool of blood on the carpet. Then, his eyes shifted to me. His expression changed: shock, then fear, then a map-like rage. A look that ravaged me. Not the fear of a husband, not the pain of a boss. It was the look of a killer. "What did you do?" she asked, wetting herself. Why him?" The question was completely illogical and accusatory. I looked at her, and a terrifying truth began to dawn on me. That morning, the fences Travanti had prepared for me. Was it intentional? Why is Kishia lying on the ground? And why, at this question, does Travanti seem so disappointed? "I know what you did," I asked, pulling my hands away. "I ate the plate I gave you." "I don't know what you're thinking, Travanti. Was it supposed to be you lying on the floor?" The words hung in the air. Travanti's face moved, taking on a frozen expression. "I understand. I've said too much." Ambulance sirens, paramedics. Kishia was placed on a stretcher and being led to the elevator. Travanti ran after her, but just before she entered the elevator, he turned to me, his eyes still bearing the operation and the threat. "You need to come to the hospital," he said. "This is your fault. Don't try to get away with it." The elevator doors closed, and I, very much in my opinion, realized something was wrong. I sat in the hospital waiting room, feeling the coldness of the plastic chair. Fluorescent lights shone on me, creating a spooky sense of loneliness in the tiled floor. Travanti paced back and forth in front of the doors like a suffering lion. He pulled at his hair, bit his nails, and occasionally glanced at me sideways, a mixture of suspicion and hatred, but in a way that he wouldn't dare approach. I kept trying to figure out what had happened in the previous hours. Why did Travanti seem so surprised, so upset? Was it because of Kisha's grief? Or was it fearing a dark secret that might be revealed? The doctor came out, middle-aged, serious-faced. "Acute poisoning," he said. Luckily, he arrived in time. "He's out of danger." But he told me which medication caused the severe bleeding. The word was like a medical term I didn't recognize, but Travanti's reaction should have said it. He collapsed in fear. His lips moved but couldn't utter a word. The doctor continued, "This medication is used to trigger uterine contractions, to aid in labor or induce miscarriage. Based on the extremely high dose we found, this is intentional poisoning. We've notified the police." 2 police officers came out. The investigation began. Travanti immediately raised his hand and gestured. "Officers, I'm sure this is my wife's doing. I prepared this soup myself this morning. She kept it in her office for a long time before giving it to Kishia. She may have added poison out of jealousy. I had to use all my strength to stay calm. The doctor told me the lab results. The poison had spread throughout the soup. It had been stirred in during or immediately after cooking, not just sprinkled on after it was turned off the heat. Travanti needed to dismantle the theory. If I had added the poison in his office right after putting it on the lid, it wouldn't have spread like that, caused severe uterine contractions and resulted in heavy bleeding. The fetal body did not survive. Sadly, the child did not live. The world felt frozen. Travanti let out a muffled groan. His legs buckled. Travanti's secretary was pregnant. She was carrying Travanti's child. And this plan, concocted with infidelity to his own wife, had inadvertently resulted in the death of his own illegitimate child. But the police took me in for a separate questioning. The elderly officer looked at me with clear eyes, almost compassionately. "Madam, please tell me everything from beginning to end." I recounted the entire morning. Travanti's unusual attention, what the smell of the farms did to my stomach, that the thermos had never been opened, never touched. No one had touched it again. I only gave it to Kishia to breathe. On the other hand, Travanti was explaining to the police officer what he had prepared. "I went to the market myself. I went into the kitchen myself. I prepared this soup at dawn. I was very careful. I never allow the household staff to touch my wife's food. After it was finished, I put it in a thermos and brought it straight to the office. No one else touched it." The events that unfold later increase mental fatigue. Each new development merges with previous emotions. This merging creates a heavy impact. One cannot distinguish what they are feeling. Decisions become difficult. Internal conflicts deepen. This deepening determines the pace of the narrative. The mind is constantly preoccupied with the past. The future becomes uncertain, and the story progresses amidst this uncertainty. The police officers exchanged brief glances. Then the questioning stopped. The doctor began to explain the lab results. The poison had been mixed into the thermos during preparation. If I had added it, it wouldn't have spread like this. If Travanti was the sole person who prepared it, then he is the prime suspect. Travanti jumped up in a panic. "That's absolutely not true. Kishia might have taken medication. Yes, she was pregnant. She wanted a miscarriage and she ate it. You should investigate her. She can't blame me," he shouted. The police officer closed the file, giving him an icy stare. "Mr. Jenkins will need to check the office. Our investigation will be conducted." It was checked with photos. Travanti's house, even his car's dashcam, everything. And Travanti knew it. His face turned pale, an expression of pure terror. I waited all night in the hospital waiting room. Everything I learned made me apologize. Travanti killed his child, his son, a child connected to him by blood, but not out of love, but to protect his own secrets. Before heading home, I had the office security cameras checked. Travanti's car left at 7:15, but he didn't get into the elevator until 8:15, an hour lost. What did he do during that time? Deandra, Travanti's assistant, was seen in the emergency stairwell with a trash bag. Why this clandestine behavior? When I returned to my office, the whole picture was becoming clear. Amani, my trusted assistant, placed a file on my desk, with a USB drive and a map in his hand. I checked Travanti and Deandra's call records. She said, "There's one number frequent, especially at night." I investigated. It belongs to Saria, her ex-girlfriend, the pharmacist. You know, the company's ex-girls. There was a flirtation, but it ended when she took Travanti. Pharmacist ex-lover, secret calls. Complete picture. Travanti couldn't buy restricted medication, risk of being tracked. He turned to Saria. She persuaded him with money or old feelings. Deandra showed the video of him being followed. Saria was giving him a package wrapped in newspaper. Poison. Saria. He had provided the poison. I found her. Saria. I contacted the local clinic where she worked, in a corner of the pharmacy office. We met at a segregated cafe. I showed her the photo, the police records, that package. Saria froze. His eyes widened. He was an experimental man, but this was one of the most terrifying moments he had ever experienced. Travanti has a plan to save lives, I said. Either listen to the recording, or I'll take it. Go to this museum, be a witness, and receive a pardon. Otherwise, jail. Choose. Fear was caught in the conflict. In the end, survival prevailed. He handed over a USB. Everything was on it, recordings, messages. In Travanti's own voice, Get rid of my wife. Pregnancy is an obstacle. I'm finding something powerful. I'll mix with the sperm. Look like miscarriage. Clean. The shareholders to a meeting. I presented evidence, audio recordings, financial transfers, kishes. The luxury apartment was provided by Travanti, named after DeAndre's company. That's all. The shareholders looked on in disgust. I proposed that Travanti be removed immediately. I said. Applause. Applause. Travanti collapsed. The police came, put handcuffs on him. DeAndre accused him. That's how the pack works, they abandon each other. With my diligent lawyers, we pursued the investigation. Seria received a 2-year suspended sentence in exchange for being a witness. Travanti received 12 years. Kishia was discharged from the hospital but was told she would never be able to have children again. Mama Hattie Kishia's mother stayed with her, and together the two of them piece by piece brought life back together. 6 months later, labor began. I had a baby girl, Serenity. I named her Peace and Serenity. That morning, if I hadn't had my morning sickness, if Kishia had eaten her that morning, Serenity would never have come into the world. If Kishia had never been pregnant, then Serenity wouldn't exist for a reason, another woman's child. No other hope. Travanti was in custody. He wanted to come to see me. He wanted to see my daughter. I asked him, with compassion, about my lover. It seemed like a holiday party. No remorse. Just no empathy. 2 years later, the company was called Travanti. She was spreading it under the guidance of the castle. Kishia and her mother returned south. Police report, Travanti's Seria. These communications with DeAndre were all recorded evidence. Travanti never objected. He simply went to her one day and told me, Zinea, I know what I did. It's terrible. I'm sorry, but I want this punishment because I want it. I'm a human being, not a monster. Then I learned about the child from Kishia, a boy. The doctor said so. Travanti was devastated by the news. He wanted a boy to continue his legacy. But we have our daughter, Serenity, instead of a boy. And that boy had no father because I put him in jail. 2 years later, Travanti was released. I closed my eyes to him. I decided I would never see him again. At that time, I was considering marriage with another man. Kendrick, my business partner, kind and respectful. He loved Serenity. He loved me. And he wasn't a bad man. Serenity in my arms. I looked out my window. The sky was no longer the gray of that bitter morning, but blue and clear. After the floor exit, the sun always comes out. Travanti's sentence was over, but as he ran away, my life was beginning. Serenity looked at me, smiled. I smiled. True revenge is simply living life. A message arrived from Kendrick. Would you and Serenity like to go on a picnic this weekend? I'd like to go to the countryside. I replied, yes. Travanti will wait for years in a cell. I, with my daughter, am happy in the open air. This is justice. 3 years have passed. After Travanti's conviction, I felt like my life had been completely reshaped, reborn. I was far removed from that painful morning. The pools of blood, the hospital corridors, Serenity, now a 5-year-old girl, red-haired, radiating life energy, was like an angel who rushed into my bedroom every morning to wake me up. What happens doesn't feel ordinary. Every moment carries an emotional weight. This weight is carried unnoticed. As time passes, the burden increases. One wants to stop, but stopping doesn't offer a solution. Internal pressure becomes inevitable. This pressure hardens the narrative. Tension rises, and the breaking point approaches. The company underwent a complete transformation under my leadership. I cleaned up Travanti's corrupt financial system and established honest and transparent management. The stock returned to its previous level and even surpassed it. Employees respected and trusted me. As CEO, I wasn't just managing numbers, I was supporting people, spirits, and families. Every decision was made with Serenity's future in mind. My office was on the 20th floor, offering a sweeping panoramic view of the city. Looking down from the window, seeing the people, the cars, the life, reminded me how quickly everything can change. One morning's breakfast, a couple of doors ajar, and life completely turned upside down. But I survived. Serenity survived. And that was more than enough. Mama Hattie and Kishia had found me 6 months ago to see that things were going well. A message arrived. Kishia found a job, a small boutique, She opened a school. She's smiling. She's not a mother anymore, but she's a worker. Living life. Thank you, Zanea. God bless you, I replied, and they sent a photo. Kishia, wearing sunglasses, was smiling in front of a shop. A simple, sincere, genuine smile. I haven't heard anything about Saria. Her license was revoked. She lost her job. The last I heard, she moved to another city and isn't in contact with anyone. Perhaps Travanti, abandoning her too, was a lesson for her that money or love is never enough for evil. In the end, everything has a price, and you pay that price, or you collapse. Travanti's mother, Mrs. Beatrice, sent me a letter. It was handwritten with trembling hands. Zinea, I beg your forgiveness. Seeing what my son did shattered me. No mother wants to accept that her child is so evil. But I did. Forgive me if you can. I would like to see Serenity, my granddaughter. I cried when I read it. People can change. Even they can change. Serenity to visit her. The old woman collapsed when she saw her granddaughter's face. She cried. Serenity played with her hair, unaware of anything. Serenity hadn't lost anything because she had never known a father. Perhaps that was it, a clean slate, a life to start with, without any bad memories. Mrs. Beatrice wanted to come to see Serenity weekly. I did so with her consent. Serenity needed love in her life, wherever she went. I wouldn't allow myself to tarnish the feelings of Travanti's granddaughter. She's a little girl. In time, she would know the truth about her father. But not then. Right now, she should just be a child playing, smiling, enjoying life. With Kendrick we're progressing. He proposed to me a simple ring. One romantic afternoon, in the park, while watching Serenity, I said, "Tell me." He smiled and hugged me. Travanti had never hugged me like that. A true hug is sacred. It carries the promise, the Prometheus of the future. The wedding was going to be a small ceremony. My family, Kendrick's family, Mama Hattie and Kishia if he wanted to come, a few co-workers. Travanti's people weren't wanted. His shadow shouldn't be there that day. He should stay in his cell, alone with his conscience. Serenity's start to school. She was so excited, asking questions about making new friends. Mom, are there any boys? She asked. Are some of them really bad? I laughed. At 5, who knows more about life? There are some, baby, but you choose the good ones. Kind-hearted people. It's not about looks. It's about the inside, the look. And if someone treats you badly, run and tell me. I'll protect you always. I hugged her. Serenity kissed me. I felt tears streaming down my cheeks, but they were tears of joy. For the first time for my child, they were tears of hope, not tears of fear. Travanti's sentence was to last 6 more years. His prison life was discussed on the news channels. The CEO's horrific crime, the home tutor, the eco-camp scandal. There were a few examples. But I wasn't listening to the news anymore. He wasn't mine. He belonged in the past. One day, in my office, Amani told me he wanted to talk. We closed the door. Zinea, I received a letter from Travanti. He asked me to send him to a lawyer, he said, holding the letter. Read it, I said. Amani began. Zinea, I'm done. I spent many hours in prison, reflecting on myself. I understood what I did. Why I did it. Greed. Fear. Egomania. I understand you never want to see Serenity again, but if possible, tell her that one day, perhaps she won't understand, but come and visit me. Tell her you want forgiveness. Tell her I am her father, even if I am evil, I existed. I love her, Travanti. Of the letter was a hand-drawn illustration, a child figure, simple but sentimental, and a man figure, standing at a distance, at Amani. What is this? Is it a game? I don't know, said Amani, but it's unknown what's happening in prison. Maybe things have changed. Maybe it's just another round of commotion. Even if we kept a copy of the letter in my library under my last name, I didn't promise anything. Serenity would one day have a choice. If she wanted to know her father, I would tell her, but not then. Now, she had to remain in protection. Autumn arrived. Serenity started school. She made new friends, boys and girls. They all played in her playground, under the tree, on the grass. I took time off from her office and went to pick her up in the afternoon. She ran out, crowded around, and told me about her day, every child's name, the rules of every game, what the teacher said. Mom, I'm so happy, she said, holding my hand as we walked home. I know, baby, I said. Me too. Winter came, it snowed. A white blanket hung over the city, making everything clean, new, pristine. Kendrick and I prepared for our wedding. Serenity knew she would be the flower girl, a purple dress, wrapped in flowers, her fingers held higher to avoid eye contact. The wedding day was to be in a church, small, intimate. A radiant place, stained glass windows, everything prioritized for light. I would wear a simple white dress, neither like my princess nor for show. Simple, beautiful, true. Kendrick waited at the altar. I walked up the stairs. Serenity was scattering flowers and smiling. When she looked at Kendrick, tears welled up in her eyes. You two are so beautiful, she said. Both of you. I knelt down and stood beside Serenity. Are you sure you want to do this? I asked. She nodded. Kendrick is fine. He's not bad. He loves you. We got married. We exchanged rings. Kendrick kissed me. Serenity clapped. The months that followed were the finest of spices. I emerged from Travanti's shadow and found myself successful as a CEO, proud as a mother, defeated as a woman. I built a life with Kendrick, a simple, intimate love that is renewed every day. Serenity gained a 6-month-old sister, Lena, little, with red hair, just like Serenity. Serenity was overjoyed to be the big sister. She combed Lena's hair, read to her, protected her, the kind of love she might one day give to her own children. Travanti, in prison, maybe he changed, maybe he didn't, but it didn't matter anymore. He was out of my life. He was an unknown chapter, and I was writing my own pages. Love, hope, life. One night, I sat with Kendrick, looking out the window at the city lights. Do you regret it? He said, holding my hand. No, I said. Never. Yes. I suffered. Yes. I was afraid. But I'm here. You're here. The girls are here. If it weren't for Travanti, I wouldn't have met you. That evil prepared me for the right person. Kendrick took my hand. Serenity is the right name. Peace. You deserve the name. Yes, I deserved it. And here I was, living a peaceful life. Travanti's letter. An unexpected call came. It was his lawyer. Travanti wanted to see me, not in prison, in a courtroom for a formal hearing. He wanted me to be the listener as he presented his request for pardon. My first answer was no. Why would I want to see him? Why should I listen to his lies? But Amani approached me and said, Zinaya, perhaps this is necessary to give you closure. For Serenity, the page remains open when she will ask questions one day, without me answering. Perhaps this hearing is necessary to close that chapter. I went to the courtroom. Travanti, in his gray prison uniform, his face aged, his eyes empty, silver streaks in his hair. He stopped when he saw me. He couldn't make eye contact. Zinaya, he said, his voice dry. Thank you for coming. I didn't say anything. I just sat there, next to my lawyer. Travanti began to speak. In prison, he had seen a psychiatrist. He had deep psychological problems, over control by his mother, abandonment by his father, high pressure to achieve, absurd ideals about masculinity. All of this had driven him to an obsession with keeping a male heir, a need for control, a search for power instead of love. I didn't love Zinaya, he said with a bitter smile. I wanted to control what I loved. I knew Serenity would be a boy, that she would continue my lineage. But if she turned out to be a girl, I needed to create an excuse for divorce. These thoughts, this self-determination, made me do it. It was strange, and I wanted to kill the child, to lose my daughter at the same time. I wasn't aware of this absurdity. Her lips trembled. In prison, I became so empty that I understood myself. I'm a terrible person. But you aren't. Not Serenity. Not Mama Hattie. Not Kishia. Not Saria. Just me. The courtroom audience remained silent. The judge removed his glasses and shook his head. Travanti continued, I am asking for forgiveness. But this is not because I want to be forgiven. I apologize because what I did is unforgivable. But Zinaya and Serenity need forgiveness to forget me. Because if they don't forgive me, my essence will remain in their souls and poison their futures. Hearing those words, something cracked inside me. He was right. Yes, he was a monster. But locking me up in his monsters could be worse than Serenity being poisoned by her father. Forgiveness was needed. Not for me, not for him, but for her, for Serenity, for my own soul. Every new realization brings with it a weight. This weight is not easy to bear. One confronts the past. This confrontation is emotionally challenging but inevitable. The narrative progresses through this confrontation. Tension shifts. Emotions intensify. The mind slows down, and the process transforms. After the hearing, the lawyer asked, "Did you give your advice? Do you support the request for pardon?" I nodded. Yes, I support that, because I want to live my life, not be burdened by the weight of the past. The court granted Travanti a pardon of 5-year reduction in his sentence. He will serve 5 more years in prison, then be released. But that, frankly, is a distant prospect for me. He would no longer play any role in my life. When I got home, Kendrick was waiting for me at the door. "How was it?" he asked. "It's difficult," I said, "but necessary. I forgave, just to move on with my life, just so Serenity's future is clean." He hugged me. "You're a strong person." "No," I said, "I'm just tired, and I want peace." Serenity was playing with her toys in her room. She asked me, "Mom, where were you today?" I sat down next to him. "I went to see your father," I said simply. "My father? Why didn't he come here?" she asked, her eyes still full of innocence. "Because he's somewhere else." "But I love you. Kendrick loves you. Grandma loves you." "That's enough." He shook his head and returned to his toy. Children are less intelligent than we adults, simply put. Even if there's love, that's enough. Jewelry isn't unconditional. It's not conditional. It just exists. That night, when Kendrick and I were lying in bed, "Travanti, you said you forgave him," she said. "Did you let him forgive you?" "No," I said. "I've forgiven myself for making my bad decision, for choosing the wrong person. But we make choices, and then we evolve. Travanti won't stay in prison forever. He'll get out one day. But that door is closed for me." Kendrick held me, and I fell asleep. Years passed. Serenity and Lena grew up. By 9 years old, Serenity was an intelligent, elegant, and cultured girl. She never asked much about her father. Because I presented Kendrick as her father, he taught her to play sports, to ride a bike, to start her morning routine. Travanti was nothing more than a name. One day, Serenity overheard a gossip from her school teacher. Her mother said, "Zinaya, your daughter talked about your ex-husband being a rapist." Serenity came and asked, "Mom, is my father in jail?" I sat down. "Has the real time arrived?" Serenity, 9 years old, conscious, intelligent, ready to receive answers. "Yes," I said. "Your father is in prison because he did terrible things. He hurt me and other people. He was a bad man." "He's still my father," Serenity said, lost in thought. "Yes, genetically, yes. But he didn't love you. He loved himself. Sometimes people are bad, but it's not your fault. It's not my fault either. It just happened." Serenity cried. Children cry when faced with such truths. But after crying, she asked a question. "Does he want to see me?" This question broke me. "Yes, I think I would like to. But this is yours. If you want to see it, I'll be there with you. If you don't want to see it, that's fine too. Nothing can happen." Serenity thought, "I want to see him. Just once. Just to know who he really is." So, 2 years later, I took Serenity to Travanti in prison. On the other side of the glass, there was a man, his hair completely silver, his facial features deep, his eyes, those eyes, Serenity's eyes, the same color, the same shape. "My daughter," she said, her voice trembling. "Serenity, you have grown up. You're so beautiful." Serenity remained silent. She simply looked. She looked in a way that reflected the pain on Travanti's face, because he had never been able to live with this girl. She was just an image, a voice, a smile, nothing more. "Why?" asked Serenity, quiet but powerful. Travanti's eyes filled with tears. "Because I was a fool and a wicked person. But I am not anymore." "But it's too late." Serenity turned, took hold of me, and we left. At the gate, I asked her, "Are you all right?" "No," she said, "but I'll be all right. Because he's just a stupid guy. He's not my father. Kendrick is my father. He protects me. He loves me. That guy is just biology." When I picked him up, he seemed strong. The child can't escape these kinds of realities, but he keeps going, because life goes on. Travanti was released after 5 years. He never came near me. He never came near serenity. He quietly went to another city, started another life, unknown, forgotten. And perhaps that was the best ending, because he continued to live his own punishment, loneliness, silence, unforgivable. But I survived. I raised serenity. I built a family with Kendrick. I ran the company. I succeeded. I found peace. The courtroom where Travanti sat, that was a part of my life, is gone. That door was opened, closed, and remained sealed. Now, I live a life beyond the outer structure. Serenity wants to be a teacher at school. Lena wants to make art. Kendrick is happy. I am at peace. When the city lights shine through the window, I talk about many years ago, that pain, that fear, that darkness, and I give thanks. I give thanks that he is alive, that he chose love, that we have forgiven him. Because forgiveness is not weakness. It is the greatest strength. And I will spend the rest of my life living with that strength. Although this story seems to end here, it actually continues to live on through the meanings it leaves behind. Every moment, every emotion, and every silence resonates differently over time. Thoughts that initially seem heavy help one to see oneself more clearly as time progresses. What has happened cannot be changed, but its place in life can be transformed. This transformation is not sudden. It progresses silently, slowly, and often imperceptibly. In this process, one not only remembers what has happened, but also learns to make sense of it. As time passes, perspectives on events change. Things that once felt like a burden are now seen simply as part of the past. This doesn't mean forgetting. On the contrary, it's the strength to accept what happened as it was. As acceptance occurs, emotions become more balanced. The mind doesn't constantly dwell on the same points. Silence ceases to be an uncomfortable void and transforms into a space where thoughts become clearer. The point reached at the end of the story is not a place where everything is perfect. However, it is a more genuine stopping point. At this stopping point, one can pause without forcing oneself. One can look back without completely turning one's back on the past, but also without getting lost in it. What happened is no longer what governs, but merely a part of the narrative. This realization creates an inner relief. The emotions that have accumulated throughout the narrative slowly dissolve here. Each scene has left a trace. These traces do not disappear with time, but they lose their weight. People learn to move forward with these traces. They become more understanding of themselves. They reshape their expectations. They accept that life does not always offer clear answers. At this point, the story feels more like a pause than an ending. It creates space to catch your breath. It offers the opportunity to look at what happened from a distance. This distance clarifies thoughts. Emotions become more orderly. One begins to hear their own inner voice more clearly. Every narrative leaves a different impression on the viewer. This story aims to provoke thought rather than provide answers. Because some stories are told not to explain, but to evoke feelings. The impact they leave lasts longer than words. They merge with the viewer's own experiences. They generate new meanings. And perhaps this is where the true value emerges. When the story ends, what remains is not silence or emptiness, but awareness. This awareness allows one to come a little closer to oneself. The relationship with the past changes. The future is viewed with a calmer perspective. The journey continues, because every ending is the silent beginning of a new thought. And every beginning opens up space for a person to get to know themselves a little better.